Right. So today we're diving into some like really murky waters.
Yeah.
It's the whole thing with Daniel Greene.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the fantasy author, booktuber.
Yeah. I know who you mean.
Yeah, and it's we've got like a ton of stuff to go through, like his videos, all the statements from both sides, and even like some legal analysis to kind of unpack.
Oh, wow. This is going to be a big one.
It really is.
So, like, what makes this whole thing so, like, fascinating is that it's not just your typical, like, he said, she said online drama.
Right.
You know, Daniel Greene really built his whole platform, like, very intentionally on this specific set of values. And he, like, attracted this, like, super loyal audience who really, like, connected with that image.
Yeah, so when Naomi King, the other creator, came out with those accusations, it wasn't just like gossip. You know, it like really shook, like that whole foundation that he had built.
Totally. And that first accusation, you know, about that encounter in Vegas where King claimed Greene pressured her into doing things while she was, you know, under the influence.
Right. So we're already in like
tricky territory.
Really sensitive territory.
Yeah, for sure. Consent, intoxication, how those things are, especially online. And then that's where Greene's defense, it gets really interesting. He doesn't just deny it.
Right.
He actually uses King's own words, like video clips, even song lyrics, to argue that whatever was going on between them was totally consensual.
So he's like, don't just take my word for it. Look at what she said.
Exactly. But is that like a fair tactic?
Right. Can we really understand consent from just like snippets of like little pieces conversation, right?
Yeah, that's one of the big questions this case raises. It's like, on the one hand, digital evidence, that can be powerful.
For sure.
It's hard to argue with a text or a recording, but context is everything, right? We don't see the full conversation, the emotions behind the words, the power dynamics, any of that.
And it gets even trickier because Greene also includes these clips from these apology videos that King apparently sent to him and his wife, Kayla.
Right.
And these videos, they were shared through these like temporary links that have since been deleted, but they supposedly show King admitting to this like consensual relationship with Greene and regretting the whole like affair.
That's another layer, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, and speaking of Kayla, she also makes a statement in one of Greene's videos about choosing to stay with him and, you know, rebuild their relationship.
It's just a reminder that this isn't just online drama. This is like people's lives.
Yeah, real people.
Real families.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really makes you think about the role of like, you know, texting and posting and all that.
Digital communication.
Yeah. In these situations. Can we really understand someone's intentions?
Yeah.
From just like a text message, especially when it's something like accent, which is so sensitive, you know?
Yeah.
It feels like we're trying to put together a puzzle, but with only like a few pieces.
That's a great analogy. We only have these fragments of the bigger picture, and we're left to fill in the blanks ourselves, which, you know, leaves room for assumptions, biases.
And everyone brings their own baggage to it.
Exactly.
So like, how do we avoid falling into those traps?
Yeah.
You know, as just people watching this unfold.
That's the question. I think the key is approaching these situations with like a good dose of skepticism, but also a willingness to consider different perspectives.
It's so easy to get caught up in the emotion of it.
Oh, totally. The internet is so good at that.
Yeah.
But we have to remember there's always more to this story than...
Right. And that goes for both sides.
Absolutely.
I mean, Greene says it was consensual, but King's initial accusation suggests it wasn't.
Yeah.
So how do we make sense of that?
Well, one thing to think about is how we understand consent. Yeah. You know, it's not static. Greene argues that King's understanding of like what constitutes assault has broadened over time, and she's applying that like newer definition to their encounter, kind of looking back. Right. He even points to a video of hers from like 2023 where she talks about a way more complex idea of assault than maybe she had before.
So he's saying she's, reinterpreting the past?
Yeah, based on how she sees it now.
That's a pretty big claim.
It is, but it makes you think, like, just because someone's story changes, does that automatically mean they're lying?
Yeah.
I mean, memory, it's a tricky thing.
For sure.
Trauma, stress, even time can, like, change how we remember things.
That's a good point.
You know, we can't just assume someone's being dishonest because their account has evolved over time. Right.
We have to have some empathy, understand that people's perspectives can change.
So we've got the Vegas incident, the conflicting stories, this whole debate about like evolving understandings of consent. Where do we go from here?
Well, hold on, because this story, it doesn't end there. Remember, King made more accusations against Greene, saying he used her as a therapist, pressured her into a physical relationship.
Okay, so this is about more than just Vegas then.
Exactly. It's a pattern of behavior now.
And there was another accusation.
Yeah, there's a separate accusation of sexual assault from someone named Madison.
Wow.
And Greene, he refutes that too. He brings in his college roommate, Mark, to back up part of his account. It's like he's trying to build this case with evidence, testimonials, all supporting his side.
It's almost like a legal defense.
It does feel that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it shows how these online accusations, they can have real consequences. I mean, reputations, careers, even legal action.
It's not just online anymore. It spills over into the real world.
Real life.
Yeah, for sure. And as this plays out, it pulls more people in.
Yeah.
This whole widening circle of accusations and defenses and
it goes beyond just Greene and King at this point.
Absolutely. Their friends, their families, even their wider communities online.
So this brings us to like a crucial point. This idea of persona in the online world, right?
Yes, Greene's persona.
He built his whole platform on this set of values and attracted this loyal audience who believed in the same things.
They felt like they knew him.
Right. And that made him really vulnerable.
Oh, yeah. Like any little thing that seemed off was seen as like this huge betrayal.
And the backlash was immediate.
Instant and intense.
And it wasn't just fans. It was other creators, too.
Especially the ones who had built their platforms on similar values.
They were so quick to condemn him, urging their followers to unsubscribe. Like,
get away from him.
Yeah, it's almost like they were trying to prove how righteous they were.
Oh, yeah, like, I'm one of the good ones. See, I'm canceling him.
It's all about self-preservation online, isn't it?
In a way, yeah. In a world of algorithms and reputation, being associated with someone who's fallen from grace can really hurt.
So there's this pressure to...
like, react instantly.
Yeah, pick a side.
Take a stance.
Before you even know all the facts.
Exactly. And that rush to judge, it can be driven by those very values that Greene's audience held so dear. It's like...
they felt like they owned them, in a way.
They did, and when he seemed to violate these values, it felt so personal.
Like a betrayal of trust.
Exactly.
Which makes me think, you know, for anyone building a presence online, if you define yourself too rigidly around certain values, does that limit you?
It's a tough question. Authenticity is important, but so is recognizing that we're all human. We make mistakes, we learn.
Right.
But the internet, it doesn't always allow for that.
Yeah, that's very black and white.
Very much.
You're either a hero or you're... yeah, there's no in between.
Not much room for growth.
And this brings us to that bigger conversation about cancel culture and how it's, I don't know, maybe evolving.
Maybe. We're starting to see a shift away from that, like, permanent banishment idea towards something more nuanced, where accountability and, like, restoration are important.
So less about canceling and more about giving people a chance to make amends, to maybe redeem themselves.
Exactly.
It's a big shift in how we think about things.
It is. It's about recognizing that people can change, that we all mess up.
Right.
And that sometimes holding someone accountable means giving them space to learn.
That's a good point. It takes a lot of empathy.
It does. It takes understanding, willingness to have tough conversations.
And that's not always easy, especially online.
Oh, absolutely. Things escalate so quickly online.
Yeah, but it feels important that we try to move in this direction.
Toward a more restorative approach.
Yeah, both online and offline. This whole situation really highlights how complicated online accountability is.
It really does.
When do we hold people accountable?
Yeah.
When do we offer second chances? How do we navigate all these gray areas?
It's messy. There's not always a clear right and wrong.
It really makes you think. And it's not just about Greene and King.
Right? No, it's bigger than that. It's about consent, accountability in the digital age.
It's about how we interact online, how we understand consent, how we hold each other accountable.
In this world of, like, anonymity and instant information.
Right. It's a lot.
It is. We've covered the legal stuff, the impact on Greene, this whole idea of evolving online accountability.
Right.
But there's one more piece to this that I find really interesting. This idea of persona and how it shapes the intensity of the backlash. We'll get into that after.
Looking forward to it. So we were talking about persona and how it kind of played into this whole thing. But before we get into that, we should probably talk about the legal side of things. Right. Because even though King took back some of what she said, I mean, Greene could still sue for defamation, right?
Yeah, he could. But defamation law, it's complicated, especially when you're dealing with someone like Greene, who's a public figure. It's not enough to just prove that the statements were false.
Right.
He'd have to show that King knew they were false or, acted with reckless disregard for the truth, which is, that's a tough thing.
Proving what someone intended, especially online, that's got to be nearly impossible.
It's really hard. And even if he won, I mean, you can't really undo the damage that's already been done online.
Right. It's out there forever.
Pretty much. The internet remembers everything.
Oh, and don't forget, King lives in Canada.
Oh, right. Yeah, international jurisdiction.
Yeah, so different legal systems, more complexity, more cost.
It makes you wonder if it's even worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh-huh.
And then there's the toll this has taken on Greene personally.
Right. He's talked about that in his videos.
Losing subscribers, sponsors, book deals, even family health issues.
It's a lot to deal with.
It really makes you remember that there are, actual people behind all of this.
Real people with real lives.
It's not just some abstract online drama.
It's easy to forget that sometimes when you're just reading comments and stuff.
Words have power, especially online.
Absolutely. They can spread so fast and have a huge impact.
It's interesting how Greene's handled this compared to, other people in similar situations. Some just go silent.
Yeah, hoping it'll blow over.
Others get defensive, start attacking back.
There's no right way to...
Greene's been pretty proactive, though.
Yeah, he's really trying to rebuild things.
Relaunching merch, engaging with fans on Patreon, even put out a new episode of his show.
Yeah, the fantasy news thing.
Yeah, pretty quickly after everything happened.
It's like he's trying to, I don't know, stay relevant, stay in the algorithm.
Yeah, keep creating content, keep people engaged.
Which is risky in its own way.
How so?
Well, by staying active online, he's keeping himself in the conversation.
Okay.
But that also means more scrutiny, more potential for criticism.
It's a tough spot to be in.
It is. This whole thing really shows the pressure creators are under to constantly be online, even when things are tough, personally.
It's like a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
The platforms that let you connect with people can also turn into these echo chambers where negativity just blows up.
It can get out of control really quickly.
It makes this whole problem of online accountability even more complicated.
Right. Like, when is it right to hold someone accountable?
Yeah, and when do we offer second chances?
Yeah. How do we deal with all the gray areas where there's no easy answer? It is. But I think it's important to remember that people can change, that we all make mistakes.
Right.
And sometimes the best way to hold someone accountable is to give them a chance to make things right.
It's about focusing on fixing things, not just punishing.
And that's a good way to put it. It's about restoration.
That's a good word for it. It's hard to do that online.
Oh, totally. The internet can be so unforgiving.
It's like people make up their minds instantly and that's it.
I think we are starting to see some changes, though.
Really? Like what?
People are starting to realize that cancel culture has its limit.
Okay.
There's a push for more nuanced conversations about harm and responsibility.
And redemption, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. Recognizing that people can grow, learn from their mistakes.
I hope that's true. It'd be good to see things move in that direction.
It would, but this situation, it's not just about Greene and King,
What do you mean?
This is about the bigger challenges we're all facing with consent and accountability online.
Oh, I see what you mean.
This case, it's like a microcosm of everything that's going on right now.
Okay, so we've talked about the legal side, the personal impact on Greene, and this whole idea of online accountability evolving.
Yeah, we're seeing some shifts.
Right, but there's this other layer to this whole thing, this idea of persona.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
And how it might have made the backlash against Greene even worse.
Right. It's not just that he was accused, it's that he was accused of violating the very values
that he built his whole persona around.
Exactly. We'll get into that next.
Sounds good. So we were talking about this whole persona thing and how that played into the backlash against Greene.
Yeah, it's like it wasn't just the fans who felt betrayed,
Right. It was other creators too, especially ones who had built their platforms on similar values.
Exactly. They were the loudest ones condemning him, almost like they were trying to prove something.
Yeah, see, I'm one of the good ones. I'm canceling him.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to, this whole dynamic online, It's not just about calling out bad behavior.
Right, it's about protecting yourself, too.
Exactly. Yeah. In this world of algorithms and reputation, you can't be associated with someone, messed up.
So you feel this pressure to react quickly, even before you know everything.
Yeah, you gotta pick a side, make a statement before you get caught in the crossfire.
And that rush to judgment, it was kind of fueled by those very values that Greene's audience, held so dear.
Right, because they felt like they owned those values. And when he was accused of violating them, it was like a personal attack.
Which makes you wonder, for anyone building a platform online, if you define yourself too strictly by a set of values, does it, box you in?
That's a great question. I mean, authenticity is important, but so is acknowledging that we're all human.
We all make mistakes.
Exactly. We're going to mess up sometimes. We're going to learn and grow. But the internet, it doesn't always allow for that.
Like you have to be perfect or you're nothing.
Yeah, it's very black and white, very unforgiving.
Which brings us back to cancel culture and like how it's maybe starting to change.
Maybe, yeah. I think we're starting to see a shift away from this idea of like permanent ban.
Okay, so less about just canceling people and more about what?
More about accountability, about giving people a chance to make things right, to redeem themselves.
So recognizing that people can change, that we all make mistakes.
Exactly. And that sometimes the best way to hold someone accountable is to give them the space to learn and grow.
Like a different way of thinking about things, for sure.
It is. It requires empathy, understanding,
And a willingness to have those tough conversations.
Yeah, which can be hard, especially online where things escalate so.
But it feels important, doesn't it? Like we need to try to move in this direction.
I think so. Toward a more restorative approach to justice, both online and offline.
Because ultimately, this whole situation, it's not just about Greene and King.
No, it's much bigger than that.
It's about how we handle consent, how we hold each other accountable in this digital world.
In this case, it's like a microcosm of all those bigger challenges.
Yeah, the challenges of online communication, of evolving understanding consent. It's a lot to unpack.
And it makes you think, like, what can we learn from it? How can we apply it to our own?
That's the big question. What can we take away from this whole Daniel Greene situation?
Well, I think a few things. First, be critical of the information you see online.
Don't just believe everything you read.
Exactly. Question your assumptions. Think about different perspectives.
And be aware of your own biases.
Yes, we all have them. Second, remember, there's always more to the story than what you see on the surface.
It's easy to forget that when you're just scrolling through social media.
Totally. These online controversies, they often present a very simplified version of reality.
There are real people behind those posts and comments.
With real emotions and experience.
So try to approach these situations with empathy.
Yeah, remember that we're only seeing a small piece of a much bigger picture.
And finally, be kind.
Yes, be kind. We're all navigating this digital world together.
And it's a lot easier to do that with compassion and understanding.
Words have power.
And the choices we make online, they have real consequences.
Yeah, let's try to create a space where we can have those tough conversations.
Where you can hold each other accountable without being cruel.
This whole Daniel Greene controversy, it's messy, it's complicated.
But it gives us a chance to reflect, to think about these important issues.
About online dynamics, about consent, about accountability in the digital age.
It's been a real deep dive.
It has.
And I hope it's giving you something to think about.
Something to discuss, maybe even something to change about how you interact online.
And as always, we want to hear from you.
Yeah, join the conversation on our social media, share your thoughts.
Let's keep exploring these issues together.
Because the future of the internet depends on all of us.
Being engaged, being thoughtful, and most importantly, being kind.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.